a 5 personnes qui ont voté, qui veulent défendre Hadassah, et 11 personnes qui vont voter pour le gum thief. C'est the way that we're going to do this is very, casual and, but politeness, don't interrupt somebody else, just let them finish. Unless they're rambling, I'll stop them. Et puis, ce qu'on va faire, c'est on va ouvrir une discussion. Les gens du public peuvent poser des questions s'il y a des choses que vous vouliez savoir davantage sur pourquoi, etc., etc. I don't know if you had any criteria in mind about how or what we could talk about. We could talk about plot, we can talk about character drawing, we can talk about thought and imagination, we can talk about composition and unity, we can talk about style and spirit, but that's all very heady, right? You can tell us why you liked it or why you didn't like it. But the first thing I'd like to start with is setting an atmosphere. And I just want to come back to something that's at the very, very end of the Gum Thief book. At the very end, Roger has given his novel, The Glove Pond, to an instructor of some sort who's going to give him some constructive criticism about his book. And the guy doesn't like the book at all. And he says, you got to pick an exotic location. Staples is not an exotic location. And here we have 2 books. One is Staples, and the other one is the Plateau Mont-Royal in Montreal and Cremont with the Hasidic Jews, right? So let's talk about exotic location and what you thought about the location of the book, and maybe bring that into why you liked it, or why did you like that it was here or there, and then we'll just start that and we can just go. On peut aller n'importe où avec ça. Est-ce que quelqu'un qui veut commencer? Okay, the first one's always hard.
Okay, well, for the Gum Thief, I like that it was set in Staples, because when you read a book, you expect it to be an exotic location and whatnot, but just because it was an ordinary place, it kind of intrigued me to see what would happen and what he was going to do with that setting. And I just thought it was interesting how developed the story in the most ordinary places.
And when you walk into Staples now, do you see it the same way?
Well, I haven't really walked into Staples since I read that book, but probably.
Has anybody walked into Staples since they read the book?
Oh, yes.
I keep an eye out for the employees to see if they're stealing gum or not. Apparently that gets you on YouTube, so.
For me, I read it. The thing is, you read Hadassah and you're like, oh, Montreal, it's so boring. That's Staples. The book has to be good because the city sucks. And you read it's like, oh, Montreal, I wish I could go there. My life sucks. So it's like, oh, you work at Staples, sucks to be you. Oh, that's pretty cool right now.
So are you saying that the 11 people who voted for the Gum Thief were influenced by the fact that it was in Staples? How much did that weigh into the fact that you prefer this book rather than the other one?
I think I just jumped in right now since you said that made me think of that. Just made me root for Copeland that much more.
We'll never look at a sticky note the same way again.
Well, I think the fact that it's set as a weird place, as a Staples, shows that the author must have skill to make it work as a good book.
And because it's set at an ordinary place, it can relate to more people who read it, because it's such an ordinary place. And ordinary people are everywhere, so they can relate to whatever happens.
So there's a staple in every community.
Exactly.
There's not a Hasidic Jewish community in every community. So those who voted for Hadassah, talk to me a little bit about the exoticness of, and what about the location makes you like this book?
Well, just even within Montreal, it's not, to say it's in Montreal, it's still even then secluded from, the atmosphere and the wonders of the big city of Montreal. And I think that's sort of just the mystery that surrounds where they live, how I would assume that even people who live in Montreal wouldn't venture into that area. I think just the whole mystery that surrounds the book that I felt it did was what intrigued me about it, rather than
And I felt initially when I read the back of the Gum Thief, I thought, well, this might be a little dull, it's just in a regular place, that we're all familiar with, whereas Hadassah offers you a different outlook into a completely different place. I've never been to Montreal. That's not why it interests me, like, oh, Montreal, nice place, but just the fact that it's different community, different things you're exposed to as you're reading it.
So it was an adventure to there. Did you think that it was that way? Did you think that the underbelly of Staples is it exotic in that sense, that Staples has an underbelly, or?
I think it was more concerned with the story instead of the setting, because since the setting is pretty ordinary, the story had to be enough to catch your interest.
So we're talking about story now. What about storyline? Both les deux livres utilisent pas seulement un narrateur à travers du récit. Dans The Gum Thief, c'est une série, c'est comme des épîtres, c'est plein de lettres et qui se répondent, et aussi un autre petit livre à l'intérieur du gros livre. Dans Hadassah, tu as le côté de l'histoire qui est conté par Alice, le professeur d'école, dans le jeu, et tu as l'autre histoire qui est contée dans un narrateur impersonnel. Donc, does anybody want to talk a little bit about how the structure of the story is and how that influenced you?
I liked how he had so many characters because that allowed him to make so many statements. Because each character has their own opinion on something, and he's very opinionated on all of them. And I just found it really interesting how one character would say something, but another character would say something else, and then another character would have something in the middle. So it just offered a range of different viewpoints and perspectives and opinions. That's what attracted me to it.
And you didn't find that in Hadassah?
A little bit, but not with as wide a variety as Copeland. Copeland talks about death, talks about...
But they're not allowed to talk about death in the theater.
Yeah, that's true.
I found that was a huge downfall of that. It just seemed like every subject that they almost talked about is like, oh, never mind. I'm not allowed to talk about
And then
that.
Copeland goes, swears and makes kind of taboo statements about it, and it was bold. It was really bold.
So one book is censored and the other book is uncensored.
Yeah, it was really artistic.
One's out of the box, one's in the box, like hanging on the edges of the box, following all the rules. The other one's like, oh, well, teenagers today, they swear and they say all these things, so why can't we in a novel? So I found that, that's one of the reasons I didn't like it. I found that it portrays us really, like, it's entertaining to see how we act in real life, but then it's like, oh wow, we act like this in real life. So that's one of my main reasons that I didn't like the Gum Thief so much.
So you were surprised that they would have picked this for you guys to read?
No, I really enjoyed Douglas Copeland. It's just in comparison, I felt that it was found wanting.
Who else hasn't spoken that has something that might be interested in? Oui, tu as.
Du côté de l'histoire, je pense que Hadassah avait un peu plus un driving force, si tu voulais, il y avait quelque chose qui se passait. Sauf que j'ai trouvé qu'à la fin, c'était sort of dissatisfying, c'était pas vraiment une fin que j'ai aimée. Tandis que c'était un peu le contraire dans The Gum Thief, parce que pendant tout le début et le milieu du livre, c'est juste un échange d'opinions entre différentes personnes. Il n'y a pas vraiment une histoire qui se passe, à part l'histoire à l'intérieur du livre. Mais j'ai l'impression que c'est une partie plus ou moins minoritaire. Tandis qu'à la fin, il commence vraiment à avoir des événements précipités entre les choses. Story-wise, Hadassah était quelque peu meilleur au niveau de
Hadassah était meilleur au niveau de l'histoire, mais tu as quand même voté pour Gum Thief.
Oui, j'ai quand même préparé de Gum Thief à cause, justement à cause de l'insight que ça nous a donné sur l'humain. Annie, elle disait que ça reflétait un peu l'image qu'on donnait à la société, et tout ça, si elle l'a pas aimé, moi j'ai vraiment aimé. Ça fait penser un peu plus à comment est-ce qu'on agit, à comment est-ce qu'on devrait agir. Des choses comme ça. Est-ce qu'il n'y avait pas ce reflet là, dans Hadassah?